Hi, and welcome to Origins of Things and Stuff, Episode 5. I'm your host, Illuminatia.
And I am your esteemed co-host, rodent friend, Nick the Rat.
And today, we're going to continue the calendar theme and talk about how we got the days of the month and our calendar in general.
Oh, when you said we're going to talk about how we got our days of the month, I thought you're talking about like lady stuff.
Actually, it's funny because the word menses just means month, like in that's the Roman name for month, and then it became the word for the period.
The stressful time of the month.
The make people suffer part of the month. So yeah, menses.
Yeah.
Yeah, names of the months. So here we go. So I decided to take the liberty of looking into the definition of the word or the root of the word calendar. And it seems to be, it looks like historians kind of have a little bit of a debate as to what that is. But it looks to me, so first one is a Roman root, and it's called calendarium. And also Roman clary, and so it's like the word declare. So I guess what they used to do is the monks would come out and announce a new month by calling it out in like a town square, kind of like a town caller. And the months were calculated. They just watched the moon and told people that a new moon was there, as if they couldn't see it for themselves.
What a bunch of lunatics.
Lunatic.
Running around the streets. It's March, everybody. I could tell from the moon.
Yeah, exactly.
Go
So,
home.
um, and then the old French. I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation here. It's calendrier, which just means list or register. And oddly, the English, when the Old English adopted it, they added the word. It was originally spelled er at some point, and they took the er at the end of the word and added ar, because calendar der was this like it was a clothes press. So that's how we ended up with the word calendar spelled with a dir. Fun fact. So I am going to share the screen now. Boom. So, oh no, what's happening here?
You shared too much.
I did share too much, too fast. So calendar makeovers. Okay, so the lunar calendar was possibly inspired by the Roman one. So there's 29.5 days of the moon phase. And it was
0.5?
initially,
Is there
yeah.
like a really big day? Like a sun's. Where'd the sun go?
I guess
Just
at
up.
the middle of the day, the moon shifted. I don't know. I just got these from the internets.
Like, oh, the Modern Family is 2.5 kids. Like, what the
Yeah,
leg running around?
exactly. Yeah, it's kind of strange that it would be 29.5. I don't know. It's some weird. I guess by I don't know, but I guess the lunar calendar itself was inspired by the Roman and Egyptian calendar. So eventually the calendar evolved into the Romulus calendar, and that only had 10 months. So wintertime at this time were not assigned months. It was just these days where you went through winter. And it wasn't
Wait,
until
hold on one second. Did you just say that the Romulans had influence over Earth's calendar?
Romulus. I guess I did think of Romulans too, but I
Well,
wonder if
they,
that's where they came from, like the name of the Romulans.
Okay, I just got really excited there for a second. I was
Oh,
like,
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Shrek is real?
I
Okay,
mean, people do say that aliens came down. Maybe it was actually the Romulans. Who knows?
those shifty Romulans.
With their calendars with only 10 months. So I guess, yeah, this Romulus calendar only had 8-day weeks, and they alternated between 30 and 31 days per month. So 304 days per year. So eventually winter was split into 2 months, January and February, and the days of the week were divided up accordingly. So we did end up with the 7-day week. For some time, February was considered the last day of the month. And because it was the last day of the month and because everything was still kind of uneven, they had to continually readjust the days of February in order to make up for um, synchronicity of the seasons and the months. Because at some point, January was popping up at the beginning of fall, so it was crazy. They had some math to do.
I'm so confused right now. These months are just jumping all over the place.
Yeah, it was they had a little trouble. And the Egyptian calendar, they didn't really, because they were in the desert, they didn't really have seasons like tropical seasons. It wasn't really when I say tropical, I mean non-desert. There wasn't really a winter, snow time. There wasn't cold. It was just all kind of. I mean, there'd be they base it on times of flood, basically,
Yeah.
and they kind of
Well,
fashioned their calendar after that.
there's no need
Whereas,
for a count, like, because they don't have seasons really. So it's like, why would they even count them? Like, it's hot. We have cactus,
right,
and
yeah, I mean, basically, it was all just dependent upon flood season, and they'd follow the stars, and it was just kind of like they were able to keep track at some point, but it wasn't based on seasons.
huh,
So Julius Caesar came along. I guess he was kind of a dick, but he decided to completely redo the calendar, which I'm not against actually. After he conquered Pompeii in 46 BC, and he called it the Julian calendar, and that calendar only had 355 days. And he continued the leap day in February. And at this time, it was February 24th, because every fourth year the Romans still they had a ceremony celebrating the leap day, so he didn't want to mess around with that. So, and of course Caesar was killed. Julius Caesar was killed, and Mark Antony named the 7th month. Oh, I spelled Antony wrong. I spelled it Anthony. Mark Antony named the 7th month in his honor, and it's July Julius, and we'll get back to that. So the calendar remained at 355 days, which continually became out of sync with the seasons and celestial body positions and whatnot. So they had to keep fucking around with February days in order to keep up with the seasons. So finally, Pope Gregory the 13th revamped the calendar in October 1582, and he wanted to get the seasons to correspond with the months. So the average year was determined to be approximately 365.25 days per year. So he continued the leap day in February because it was divisible by 4. So adding that addition or taking away that additional day, they were able to get back into an even amount of days per year. And this is when they determined the years by the entire revolution around the sun rather than following the phases of the moon every month. So, this is where the revolution around the sun comes from. So, eventually, the entire world adopted the Gregorian calendar. The last place it was to be adopted was in Greece in 1923, which is almost true. There are some Greek Orthodox churches that will still follow the Julian calendar in tradition. So if you're watching the video, I have the the original 10-month Romulus calendar with the 304 days per year. And it starts with March, which they called Martius, I believe. Martius. April,
Marchiest.
Martius, Aprilis, Maius, Ionus, Quintilis, Sextilis, Septembris, Octobris, Novembris, and Decembris. Whoopsie doodle. Quin was obviously 5, Sex 6, Sep 7, and so on. And then if you're watching, this is a tablet. I think it's been refurbished, but this is the design of the first 12-month calendar under the Roman Republic under Julius Caesar. It's kind of unorganized, so
It made that.
yeah, it looks pretty hard to read, but I mean, I can see the names on top, and they still abbreviated it the way we do. It looks like Jan, Feb. It's kind of cool, except for obviously at the end where the 2 months were renamed, but we'll get to that. And here's Pope Gregory the 13th. So just wanted to show a picture of him, see what he looked like. And yeah, he's responsible for creating our modern day calendar. So let's go into January. So January was named after the god Janus, who was a two-faced god. And he was the god of doors, gates, passage, and transition, basically the guardian of the transition of time. So examples of that would be childhood to adulthood, birth and death, a new year. He was regarded as a very important god. A lot of people had Janus statues in their home. I think there was an entire building that was dedicated to him, and they prayed for him for luck because transitions can be difficult. And January marked the first month of winter as well, and it used to be the second to the last month of the year. So basically at this time it was kind of January and February was a time of reflection. They stopped any wars that they were having, any battles, and they just sort of chilled inside. So it was up to, in their opinion, it was up to Janus to make sure that their transition through this rough time, because winters are hard, to get through relatively unscathed. The significance of the two faces are one is looking into the past, and the other one is looking to the future. And it still makes sense today because we're transitioning to a new year, and obviously that's looking to the future. That's why we have New Year's resolutions and whatnot.
It'd be pretty hard to rob him.
Yeah,
You are.
that's true. So, interesting coincidence. I'm not sure if it's true, but it makes sense to me. So, Janis Joplin was actually born in January. So, I'm wondering if her parents had knowledge of the god Janus. Who knows? However, her name is spelled I-S instead of U-S. So the god is Janus. Janus is the Joplin is Janis.
They probably didn't want anus in her name.
That's true. That would be unfortunate. They're very thoughtful.
Anise is better.
Yes. So going on to February, it was named after the cleansing festival of Februum or Februa. So it's not like everybody's taking a bath; they're like whipping each other. If you're watching the PowerPoint, it looks like there's a dude. He's holding like a whip or something. There's another lady. It looks like it's a time of atonement. So they did this to prepare for the new year, which
rocks.
I don't know. They look. It was a time of like sacrifice, and with the new year starting in March, when spring occurs, I guess they just wanted to make sure that they were free of dirty sins and whatnot. What's interesting too is the festival went from the 13th through the 15th of February. And those are the same dates as the festival of Lupercalia, which later on became Valentine's Day on the 14th. So
Valentine's Day is like a S&M day. It's when they whip each other.
I guess so. I mean, it became the day of love, so I'm not sure. It's kind of interesting that its roots were all about feeling bad and getting rid of your sins and whatnot. So going to March, it was called Martius, named after Mars, the god of war. It's the month of new beginnings, and this is when the Romans would pick up their battles again. They would take a break during the winter, and then once they were done with winter, they would continue fighting their foes. So that's why they named this month after Mars, prayed to the god of war and for victory and whatnot. And I'm wondering if the word march, I mean, march like marching in a military line. I'm curious to see if that's where it came from as well, but I'm just speculating. I have no proof that that's where that word came from, since it does have, a military um, origin. So, and a side note, so if you're watching the PowerPoint, Marvin the Martian is designed after Mars, the god of war. So
Wow.
he's got his little helmet on. He's got his little they put a push broom on top of his head, but I believe, oh damn, I forgot the name of the little adornment on top of their head. Um yeah, he also wears chucks, which is kind of cool.
He's
And
repping.
yeah, he's always pissed off and he always wants to blow shit up, and
Oh
so
no, that's Mars. That's Mars. I thought that was the Japanese flag.
oh no. I mean, it's pink on the outside, but I mean, it's very close.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I didn't look at his shoes. His shoes are white, and that would be white up there. Never mind.
Yeah. So, yeah, Marvin the Martian. I didn't make that. I was like, shit, there he is. He's got the little skirt and everything. He's adorable. Okay, here we go. April.
Where's your arms?
April is, so they're a little, historians, I guess, are a little confused on this one, but they say that she's possibly named after the Latin aprit, meaning to open, which makes sense because it's probably referencing the blossoms opening during this time with springtime and everything coming about. It could also be named after Aphrodite, even though she's the Greek version of Venus. So this instead of a Roman root, it had a Greek root. And as we know, she's the goddess of love, beauty, pleasure, and spring is associated with reproduction. Hence, Easter and rabbits and whatnot. And Easter actually has a pretty interesting origin as well. It's vaguely named after Ishtar. Excuse me, my allergies are bad. And Ishtar was a ancient Mesopotamian goddess who was basically kind of the same thing, beauty, god, love. So interesting background on that one. So now we have Maya, who is, oh, I just popped up on the screen. Whoops. Have I been invisible this whole time?
I don't think
Um,
so.
oh well. So we have May
Maybe.
now, and that's named after Maya, who is known as the nursing mother. She's the goddess of growth, sunshine, nature, um, the goddess of earth, and she's another Greek origin. And I'm thinking that's where the word Gaia came from, because Gaia is Mother Earth. Maya, Gaia, makes sense to me. Um, she is the mother of Hermes, and Zeus, being a little dog that he is, came down and was like, Maya, you're like real pretty. So anyway, they
Then he
made,
turned to a dog, and
yeah, I don't know what he became. I think he was just in his normal form, and Maya was like, okay, whatever, can't turn that down. He's the boss or whatever. I don't know. And she's also the daughter of Atlas. And we all know who Atlas was. He held the earth on his shoulders, and then she became the goddess of the earth. So totes makes sense. And she's the eldest. Go ahead.
Do you think Atlas was supposed to be giant, or do you think he was just like a little guy holding the planet on his shoulders?
Oh, like he's like, yeah, I mean, you see depictions of him being this like massive dude holding the earth on his shoulders, but he could have been a little guy. He could have been like Ant-Man.
Where did he live on Earth? Because like his mother must have had a gigantic vagina. If he's holding the Earth up like that. Anyway,
Wasn't he a
that's not too.
Titan?
Titans, yeah, well, maybe, but
Yeah, I
I don't think
think
they were.
he could
I
have been
think
a
Titans
Titan.
still fit on Earth. He was just a big guy. I don't think he was that big.
Hmm. I don't know. I don't know the
I should
exact story that
His
they tell.
Wikipedia. Maybe they got his age and his height and his marital status. Let's check. You could go on while I do the research.
Okay. Yep, and she was the eldest of the Pleiades nymph sisters of the of seven. So the I'm probably saying this completely wrong. Pleiades, it's a constellation, and there's seven stars in that constellation, and she's the eldest daughter or the eldest sister. So I put up a picture of the constellations with all the seven nymphs, and the closest star right here at the bottom, I think is supposed to be Maya. Um,
Oh,
I didn't research the other names of the sisters, which I probably should have. It's always after the fact where I'm like, oh, I did so much research, and then here we are with not enough.
well, all you really need to know is the lady in the front with the glowing star in her crotch is the main character.
Pretty
The other
much.
sister, they might have been named like maybe that's where Gaia was. Maybe one of those is Gaia and one's Baia and Haya.
Hiya. Hiya. Hiya.
Ah.
Hiya. But yeah, they are all pretty, dancing in the stars and whatever. Um, so moving on to June. June was named after the word Junius. So I don't know if you remember from like Indiana Jones, when he steps on the Jehovah squares. Do you remember that?
Slightly.
So he starts off going. He goes. You have to walk in the footsteps of God, and back then it was called Jehovah. But he stepped on J, and it crumbled immediately. He goes, "Oh fuck!" It starts with an I, so the I had a J sound. So it was spelt Iunius, Junius, after the god Juno, the Roman goddess Juno. Excuse me. And she was equivalent to Hera. And she was the goddess of love and marriage. So to this day, June is a pretty popular marriage month. Um, that's where what I hear is like churches and wedding reception businesses are the most booked. So I got married in April.
Is
So
it the same thing for the Southern Hemisphere?
I don't know. This is just the one we know.
The Southern Hemisphere uses the same calendar as us, right?
They
I'm just
do.
okay. I didn't know if they had some upside down calendar or something. I never left the sewers of Brooklyn, so
Yeah, I mean, they have Christmas when it's hot and stuff, so but I don't know, in some places. I'm not a geologist. Um, but she was actually the chief Roman deity of this place called Lanuvium, uh, which was a city in the Roman Republic, I guess. And she's considered one of the most ancient deities. Pretty important. Love and marriage is pretty important to society as a whole.
age shaming her.
Age shaming. Well, she was
Most
a pretty big deal. Um, so now we have July. And July was formerly Quintilis. Now, if you look at the word mensis, um, just means month, and like we said earlier, it transitioned into the period word, which I hate. I actually hate that word for the period. It's so gross. It grosses me out. I don't know why. And yeah, quintilis means fifth month. Mensis quintilis. So it was changed to Julius in honor of Julius Caesar by Mark Antony following Julius's assassination. But then I've also heard that they named the month after Julius after he had changed the calendar altogether. And then he lived for like 1 year afterwards. So he only got to celebrate his own month for 1 year or something. Yeah, it was at that point when Julius came into power, it was getting to the point where January was falling in the beginning of fall. So things were all kind of messed up. And he got sick of it. So he changed this on January 1st, 45 BC. And actually, the Julian calendar maintained itself until the Gregorian calendar came about in the 1500s. So, but there are still Greek subcultures and religions that use it to this day. And there's other people that do as well, but I can't name them at this time. And then Augustus, August. It used to be Sextilis, meaning the 6th month, and it was changed to Augustus by politicians that were that chilled along with Augustus, named it after him. He was the grandnephew of Caesar, who was adopted by Caesar. And Augustus was accredited for bringing the Golden Age to Rome. So there was a huge economic boom. There was an explosion of the arts. Agriculture was flourishing. They and he supported the arts a lot. Like he loved the arts to a huge degree, and he'd fund it financially. So that was one of the reasons why the month was named after him. And I guess his final quote before he died was, "I found Rome a city of clay, but left it a city of marble." It's hella profound, bro. So September,
Yeah.
October, November, December was just Sep, like I went over before, Oct, Nov, Dec. These don't correspond anymore because obviously December's the 12th month and so on and so forth. So the names are at this point kind of nonsensical. But I guess there was evidence in history that people tried to change the names of the months in honor of certain emperors, but it just never went through. So they're not even named correctly. So yeah, there's our months names. And you
You
said that you
last couple.
wanted. Hmm?
You went through the last couple of months really quickly. Well, I guess it was only really, yeah, like
Yeah, I mean, unless there's something more, like I was doing research on them, basically they all said the same thing. It's like the names were basically just because of the number they were positioned in at the time when there was only the 10-month calendar.
yeah.
So,
And then Julius and Augustus came along.
yep, and that was that. So, um,
Do you know what year they came along? It was, I think you reported 45 BCE.
yeah. I think with the
Was that?
Julius calendar, I think it was
Do you know
definitely.
what the CE part means? I mean, well, okay, so it's usually before Christ and after death. That's where we actually mentioned that before this call started.
Yeah.
But then they changed it to BCE because it's a before Common Era,
Ah.
and now they say AD is Common Era. They just call it CE, I guess.
Oh.
Um, but the year one and all that was started by a monk in the year 500 and what was that? 525. So he started the years because people thought the world was going to end in the year 600 or something,
Oh.
or they thought it was going to end 500 years after the birth of Jesus. So which doesn't make sense because he did it in 525. Oh, I think there's a lot of confusion with time and dates back then.
Oh yeah.
But he said we're gonna start year one to be at this time. So we already made it past the 500 year. Oh, we're all gonna die stuff. And then he started the New Year's for the new days. And the new oh my God, we're all gonna die date is the year 6000. And
Oh,
his name was Dionysus, and he's the inventor of Anno Domini, and it was used in both the Gregorian and the Julian calendar. Yeah,
really? Anno Domini. Okay, so anno meaning year and
Domini,
Domini,
Domini.
Domini, Domini. What's that mean?
Uh, I don't know what the Domini means. I only know it is before Christ and after death. I don't know what the actual Latin was for, because I don't think the Latin people said, before Christ. They probably said something in Latin. Uh,
Domini meaning. Let's see here. Lord. Domini. Oh yeah.
Year of the Lord.
You're the Lord.
That's probably
That makes sense
Oh,
actually.
weird too. It starts the sun and all that, and
Huh.
Monday.
You know many Patris Filii Spiritus Sancti. uh, mispronouncing things is funny. Anyway, yeah, that's really interesting. So, yeah, I guess the calendar was kind of jumbled up at one point. It's really hard to say exact dates in BCE because for so long the calendar was like all cattywampus and nobody knew what day it was. And they're like, oh, it's January. It's not summer anymore. So, I guess putting exact dates on when things happen was kind of difficult, if not totally inaccurate. They can only give
Much like
like,
bread on my shelf. Who knows when that stuff was made?
yeah, yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, it's pretty amazing that we held on to these names for so long in our modern culture. Even December, even the misnamed months, they're incorrect. Now it's going to bother me. I wonder if people with OCD are going to be bothered by this. They're going to look at they're going to look at September through December and go, "Fuck, this isn't right."
It messes me up because like October should be the 8th month, not the 10th month, and December 10.
Yeah.
It's aggravating for me.
Yeah, sorry. I apologize to all the people who are going to have to deal with that for the rest of their life.
Why was Julius Caesar so damn powerful, man? He had so much influence over date and currency and money and land and
Yeah, I guess he was kind of a tyrant. I don't know. But it's hard to say cuz I never met the dude. But it, yeah, I guess things were kind of tough under him and then when his um grandnephew came along, he fixed things up quite a bit. So, I guess his lineage wasn't completely in vain. It's an interesting thing. So, that's all I got. Do you have any questions? You want to explore stuff?
uh let's see here. We talked about a bunch of months, and we figured out Julius Caesar might have been a tyrant or a cool guy. I don't know if I have too many questions after that. Do you know how this affects climate change at all? Is there any climate change thing with the months? Probably not. I don't think there's a climate change connection there.
Hmm, I would suppose not.
Do you think these month names could ever change again in the future, or do you think these are like set in stone?
Well,
Like instead of January, it's called like Amazon Day or Amazon Month or something.
right.
The tech companies take over. They killed the old gods, and then the new gods are like, oh, it's the fifth of Google.
Well, it took quite a few hundred years, well, about 1,000 years, for it to change. Well, yeah, for it to change
Maybe
into the Gregorian calendar. So,
or 500 years or so.
About 500. Maybe we're due for a calendar change. Maybe we need to change the September through December to make it correct for all those out there who now know what they mean.
No, I think that's all the questions I got.
Okay, fabulous. Well, I'd like to go through the origins of the major holidays one of these days. But
The Halloween's coming up.
ooh, I've got a good one for Halloween. I'm gonna tease you. This also has to do with Julius Caesar, but devil connections. Oh,
What?
mm-hmm,
It
mm-hmm.
seriously ties back to Caesar too.
Yeah, that guy, he was just all over the place. He got a lot of, I
He
don't
has his
know.
fingers in everything, man. He's Halloween months, money.
He was a complicated individual who did a lot of stuff and took over a lot of things. Well, I think that about concludes this episode of Origins of Things and Stuff. It was a short episode today, but I think it was good.
That's a good follow up to the last episode too.
Yes. So I'm Illuminati. I'm signing off now. Still haven't figured out a good sign off phrase.
And I am Nick the Rat, and I'll be back next week with Illuminati on origins of things and stuff.
Utas. All right. Rock on, people. Don't stop learning. Wow, that was like a teacher thing. Okay. Jesus. All right, bye.